In this episode of the Connor Carrick podcast.
I've been in NHL hockey games where you feel like, you touch the puck first game and you feel like you're like, okay, I'm going to play good today. You get the puck in the first shift and you don't get it out on the wall. In the next 3 shifts, you don't even want the puck almost. And it's just like, it's such a defeating feeling. And you're on the bench and you're telling yourself not to think like that and not to feel that. And it's so hard to control that. And so, I think a lot of it just comes with maturity. I think, that's why older guys become more consistent players because, they're less emotionally attached to the highs and lows of the game. Just in time, I've kind of developed that of just that sense of maturity and consistency in my game that, I know that I'm not as bad as my mistakes.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Connor Carrick podcast. I am your host, current New Jersey Devils defenseman, Connor Carrick. I'm very excited about our guest today, Connor Brownie. He was a teammate of mine with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's a current forward for the Ottawa Senators. He's got a really cool relationship with his own development. He has climbed the hockey ladder at a pace that's different than a lot. He has this really unique love for the game growing up in Toronto and being able to play for the Maple Leafs. He's someone that I always really enjoyed going to war with, and he has a lot of great insight about his development into the current player he is today. Let's do this. Brownie, I'm juiced to talk to you today because we used to do this have these kind of conversations about how we wanted to build our career, how we wanted to go through the game, stories about trials and tribulation of our careers, growing up. I remember we'll start with the story where you were driving to the rink. We were leaving the MasterCard Center. Connor and I were teammates as Maple Leafs. I forget what year it was, and we were driving from the MasterCard Center where we would practice with the Leafs. And we were heading to Pearson International for a flight, wherever we were going. And remember, we were getting so into whatever we were talking about. We were talking hockey, where you were almost going to run out of gas. And we had totally bypassed the airport and we're absolutely sweating bullets that we were going to miss the flight.
Yeah. I kind of remember that. My time management with those flights were always off because I would always go swing by my mom and dad's house because it was right near the airport. And but I think I remember that. There's no shortage of deep conversations with you in our day.
Well, I don't know. I kind of have an appetite for it, which is why I started the podcast. That's why I'm doing this. And I do have high expectations talking to you. Like even we were chirping Mitchie Marner before we got on. Like, if this isn't the best podcast ever, it'll never see the light of day. Like I won't release it. I have such high expectations for you. But
how was Mitchie's?
Mitchie's was great. He offered some stories, some highs and lows about his career, his development and
I would love to hear about the lows in Mitchie's career.
Yeah, there was one year he had like 99 points. It was devastating.
Hey, he doesn't know what the lows are like. Me and you, we've been grinding.
We've been in the trenches here.
Hey, some guys,
they think, you're only exposed to the adversity you are. But
yeah,
I mean this. Like I played against you growing up when you were Toronto Marley.
Yeah, we slapped you around pretty much every tournament known to man.
And your dad was the coach putting you on the power play. No, I'm just kidding, Danny.
You had me stapled on the third line, actually.
Yeah. No, So I remember like when we were younger and, the game was still more skill. You were a very good player. And then, as we got older, I don't think we actually played the Toronto Marlies as much because we didn't go as far in some of the tournaments, the youth tournaments and that. But you were drafted in the 13th round to the Ontario Hockey League.
Yeah, I don't even know why they have 13 rounds, but there's 15 rounds. I went like 251 overall on a bit of a favor, I might add.
Pulling some weight to make it happen. But you do eventually. So you play junior A the next year, and you do eventually, break into the OHL. Like, how did you manage like that inner voice? Because you obviously had the background where you knew you were a good player growing up. And, you probably knew, like I already know a little bit of the end of the story, and that you kind of hadn't hit puberty yet and like grown into, the big, strong, beastly athlete that you are now.
Oh, yeah.
monster. I mean, you always came in like the top 3 for training camp with the Leafs, like, behind Hyman and I. But no, how did...
A couple subtle digs here, and you're pumping your own tires while you're trying to pump mine.
I'm actually wearing my camp belt as we're doing this podcast. Just to let you know who the boss is. But seriously, like, how did you manage those? Because those are very pivotal years, 14, 15, 16, 17 in a young player's career.
I think at that point in my career, it was just so much more about just I've just always been a hockey player and just so much, just involved in the fun of it. Playing for St. Mike's, I just loved playing there. My first year playing junior, and my dad always really believed that I would just grow and then get as good as I once was. And so I believed it just because he had such a sense of belief in that. So I just kind of, I worked hard because I wanted to, not because, I was trying to, I wanted to make the NHL just like every other guy. But I remember just working hard because I wanted to be the best player possible, because I really enjoyed it, loved it.
Well, and I want to talk more about where did your love for the game really come from? Because I've talked a little bit with your dad, who's got a cool philosophy, and he's got a hand in the success of a lot of really, high-end NHLers out of Toronto. And you and I both know how, hockey mad that town, your hometown can be, and, how overcoached things are and things like that. And every time I've talked to your dad, I've come away really impressed and in awe of his respect for the game. But talk about what your conversations were like growing that passion growing up.
Well, I think he did a really good job of just letting me grow my passion for the game. I think he wasn't forcing anything on me. I wasn't playing hockey because I had to. I wasn't playing shinny for 6 hours on my day offs because I wanted to get better. I was honestly a very competitive kid, me and my brother, growing up when we were playing, whether it was basketball or hockey in the backyard, and it would get a little heated. We were both really competitive. And so, just the better I got at hockey, the more fun it became because I would win more. So I think that would drive me to get better and better. Danny, he was my coach for, I think, 10 years. And not once do I remember driving home and him being like, you were terrible today. Or, he never carved me. And I think it was a little bit because I was pretty hard on myself. And a little bit because he just wanted me to enjoy it. And he didn't want to, I think it was obviously a tough line for him being my coach and my dad. And so I think once we left the rink, he was just turned right back into my dad. And so it's not like I was living with my coach for, my whole life. It was, he did a good job of balancing that. And I think that's why I never lost my passion for the game. That's why I still love it.
Well, that's something I honestly admired when we played together. Was I could always tell you are very competitive, whether we're playing, Catan, golf match, training in the gym, you want to win. But you also, so you have this love for being the best, but you also just love the game. And there is a difference. I think a lot of young players kind of hit a point in their career because as you're climbing this period to the top, you just meet better and better, other players. That at some point there comes a day where you've got to realize, do I actually just love being good, or do I actually love this game? And I think the guys that are best built for adversity and really to continue their path have a relationship with both, and I always admired that in you.
Yeah, I think it gets overwhelming when you're in minor midget, and there's so many guys that are in minor midget, like a kid, and they get drafted top 10 to the OHL, and then you get to the OHL and you realize there's 5 other age groups that people were drafted, and people have developed, and it's just overwhelming how many good players there are and how many people are trying. And so if you get caught up in just trying to be better than the next guy, and you're not just enjoying the path of getting better and enjoying the path of just trying to find new heights for your game and just enjoying the games. I love my favorite part about hockey is not training. It's definitely not practice. It's playing the actual games are the most fun part, and I think most guys would say the same. And so I think it's just that passion is, I played with, playing with Connor McDavid and Jr., and he was 15, 16 when I played with him. And he just loved it. It was so obvious how much he just loved hockey. And I mean, there was just all the best guys that I've played with, Austin, Mitchie, they all like love playing the games. And I think that's just something that really just drives wanting to be the best version of yourself, in hockey. And so I think I had that. And I think it stems from, my friends that my teammates growing up, and a lot from my dad and my brother, and just, it was never a stressful environment, really. Until you get to pro, it becomes kind of stressful at times. And this year I found fun in hockey again, and I think that's why I played a lot better.
Well, so here, let's go back to you do end up getting drafted to the OHL, which for a lot of people, Sennies. If you're not, go Sennies. Yeah, if you're not a hockey fan, there's really two routes to the NHL. There's like the Division I college route that a lot of North Americans take, or you can play in this Canadian hockey league that has 3 separate leagues based on where you live. So I was born in Chicago. Brownie was an Ontario boy, so we were both in the OHL, the Ontario Hockey League precinct, and so that's where we end up both going to play. And you do eventually make the Erie Otters in the OHL, and you do get drafted to your hometown team. That's something I don't have a relationship with. I wasn't drafted to my hometown team growing up, but even if I did, I don't know if it would have been as big a deal as being drafted as a Toronto Maple Leaf, just knowing what that team means to that town. What was that day like for you?
Yeah, that was surreal. I mean, prior to the draft, I think I talked to the Leafs, the Kings, and New Jersey. I think I talked to 3 teams, and so it was a very up in the air day. Like, I didn't know if I was going to get drafted. I felt like I should. I should have. I had confidence that I was gonna be on, just based on the teams that I talked to. They all seemed interested, and but I didn't. I didn't go to the draft or anything. I was just sitting at home with my mom, dad, and brother, and it was pretty surreal. I mean, weird story. So my grandpa grew up 156 Markland, where we live in I grew up in Markland in Etobicoke. People from Toronto know the area. And he grew up 156, and he was a big horse bettor. And he would gamble a ton, and he'd always go to the tracks, and he'd box 156. Every time he'd box 156. And it was just his lucky number. And I remember growing up driving around with him, and we'd drive by a house that was 156, and he'd go 156. And we're watching the draft, and my mom looked at the draft order and just we kind of knew that the Leafs were an option because they seemed interested. And she looked down at the order, and she saw the Leafs had 156 pick in like the 5th round. She saw that like a round before, and then a round later I go 156, which is like a lucky family number to my hometown team. So that was like an emotional, surreal day. I mean, my parents and my brother were like, for me, I was so excited, but they're almost more like emotional than I was in it all. So it really just goes to show you, it's a team, it's a family effort to accomplish something like that. And so that's a day that we'll all never forget. It was pretty special.
Well, that is kind of the nature of our sport, right? Like, it is gifted to us. It is a sort of a family affair. Like, you don't just at 4 or 5 years old, when a lot of us hockey players start, you don't just like wander onto a frozen sheet with skates strapped on. Like, you need someone to tie him. You need someone to buy him for you. Like, it's not as natural of a game as maybe, you start kicking around a soccer ball or a basketball. But so you do get drafted as a Leaf. You spend a couple years in the minors. We had an awesome Marlies playoff run, in which I'm going to ask you about my performance as a last ditch effort to convince somebody out there to get me on a power play. No, Brownie and I were a part of the year where the Leafs finished last and eventually are selected, win the lottery to select Austin Matthews. And we ended the season. We played a bit of a stint after the trade deadline together, and then we go on to the Toronto Marlies, the AHL team for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and had a blast. We both had big roles on that team, and then really cemented our chances at making the NHL club the next year. And then that was, kind of off we went. We were then trying to be a part of the race to, be a part of the culture and all those buzzwords that, Brendan Shanahan and Lou Lamoriello and Mike Babcock would try to, bring to the organization. It was an exciting time. We had a lot going on, but when you think about some of those early years in your pro career, like, what are some of your more favorite moments?
I mean, That year where I played my first 7 games, I think I played the year we went on that. I remember obviously my first game, my first goal, and things like that is all pretty. It's pretty special. But I think that Calder Cup run was a lot of fun. I mean, I think it was a little disappointing, to be honest, with how good of a team we had. I felt like we kind of underachieved in losing in the conference finals and had a tough series in the second round against Albany. But I mean, all in all, that was a fun year. Just that whole summer anticipation. But I think just that next year and the anticipation of getting on that team, and we felt like we were all we felt like we were all building towards making that Leaf team take the next step. They told us to wait our turn for a long time, and to finally jump into the NHL, and then I think what were there 9 rookies that year, and we all did it at once. So it was pretty cool to go through it with a lot of different guys and make the playoffs too.
Side note, you do end up scoring, 20 goals that year?
Yeah.
20 goals that year. Remember when you started celebrating 20 goals?
Yeah, I didn't know. I guess was that goal, was it big or something? I was just excited. I scored 20.
Brownie scored a big goal against Pittsburgh. It was a high tip play. Who shot it? Was it Jake Gardner?
Yeah.
He was good at that.
He always looked for the high tip.
He liked that high tip. And Brownie scored, and we were all giving him a bunch of crap after the game because he had this big celebration. And we just wanted to let him know that it was big for the team too. And it's great that he scored 20 and all, but I think
I scored 20. Bozy still lets me know that I had 4 empty netters. So.
But who's counting? But I love the way you said, when you're coming into training camp that year, you're going to find a way to make that team, because you have had an assortment of different roles over your career. You have this versatility to your game. You play a very complete game. You have, the Red Tilson, where you're, a really high end player in the OHL, score 128 whatever tap-ins from McDavid. And then
127. I made one good play.
Yeah. And then, but you did your very best, whether you were going to be, because I talk about it sometimes with my podcast, or when I give advice to to younger players. There's really 3 types of player in the NHL. There's your stars. There's the guys that make it really hard for the stars playing against them. And then there's the guys that can play with them in a variety of role. And you really are 2 of those, to me. You definitely have this
the stars
element,
and I can play with the stars.
And you can play with right. You can be a shutdown guy, but you also have an offensive skill set, and I think that craftiness has really served you well in your career as you've continued to, build into a bigger role. And we'll get off the Toronto love affair. We'll talk about Ottawa here in a bit.
I hear what you're saying. I think that, I tried to carve out a role. I mean, I saw so many skill guys in Toronto, and I tried to assert myself into that lineup. And, at times looking back on it, I think I might have almost overdone it. I mean, I wish I would have, found my confidence and found my skill that I found this year, and to make plays and to be more than just what I was, just be that role player. I think I had more to offer. And, so, that's obviously the other side of it, but, I was just trying my hardest to play that role that I felt like that team needed me to do. And, so, it's been nice to have this opportunity this year to, not only, I still try to bring that role of being tough to play against, but, try to bring some offensive side of my game out.
That's a lesson that I've, really had to dance with in my career too. I've had some injuries, but I've definitely gotten some blown opportunities over the years where I've definitely had some, blown opportunities where, I was trying to stretch myself to what a coach may have wanted instead of playing to, what I knew I was good at and my identity. And it's kind of it's a blend as a young pro. You want to, do what you're asked and you do what you can to best help the team. But as a player, you've got to know in your bones what you can bring night in, night out, and be convinced that you can do it.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to do too, entering the league. When you're not just, you clearly just a star. I mean, it's hard to find the confidence that, you can play and any team, and you know that you have this skill set that you can bring, when you haven't really brought it yet to that league. And so it's hard. And that's why I think that DJ Smith, and you played for Smitty. I mean, I think he's really good, and he got out of a lot of our young guys this year, is because just his personality type is one that you can laugh with and joke with, and even if he yells at guys, he's hard on guys, but you also know that he doesn't hate you, and he knows that as long as he's going to still keep putting you out there.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you're trying to bring culture-wise to the Ottawa Senators, because you did learn a lot, and you were a big piece in building a competitive culture with the Leafs, and in those years where that was so instrumental to what they were trying to do. I was with you the day you got traded. We were like professional wedding goers that weekend, because we were out in the Hamptons for Matt Martin's wedding, and we're out on the, what was it, Sabonic? What's the official name? It's called Sabonic.
I think it's the National. I think
is it the National?
Yeah, the Sabonic is the one beside it, I think, but I think it was the National Country Club or something like that.
It was outstanding.
Yeah,
whatever
just
it was
some magnificent place.
What a tilt. But we're sitting there. I don't remember if dinner was served or not, but you get this phone call, and you start to take off in the distance. We were having the wedding in like a little tent there. Not a little tent. It was a huge tent. It was awesome. I don't want Marty to jump me next year. He's saying I was talking smack about his wedding, but you did have an opportunity to play for your hometown team, but you knew that you may have hoped for better opportunity elsewhere, and so talk about a little bit of those first moments as getting traded to Ottawa, the process of really unpacking it with your family, and then I know you are, such a resilient competitor. Like, I knew it was only a very short matter of time that you were going to be very excited for the opportunity, and you did really well. I was happy to see you do well, this last year.
Yeah, I think the fact that it was my hometown team too, the one team I've been a part of and never been traded, whether it come to junior or anything. So it was like a shock, an emotional shock to like get moved and to be a part of what, I felt like I was part of like the core there, and so it was a shock, and it was hard. But also I knew that for me in my career, it was the best thing for me. And, it's easy to say that over and over again until you live it. And now knowing what I, went through in Ottawa, it definitely was the best thing for me. And I think that exciting times, with the guys and the culture that we kind of have worked towards in Ottawa. So it's definitely the best thing for me in my career and my happiness. And so it's been a great change.
Well, I mean, you are kind of going through this like transition. It's cool. I had James Van Riemsdyk on right before, he became a father. And we talked a little bit about this like transition in his life, that he was getting as ready as he could for, but you're a dog dad now to Tucker. You're engaged, out of your league with Maddie,
way out of my
wonderful
league.
Fiance. And now you're trying to become a more veteran player as an Ottawa Senator. Like, what are you dreaming of next in your career and in your life? Like, what is a point of focus or a point of passion for you with all of that going on? Because you've definitely taken a big step here in the last 6, 12 or 18 months, whatever you want to.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think emotionally and just, I think I've come a long way. I mean, I think I stepped into the NHL as I still felt like I was a kid, and now I feel definitely more and more as a man, and more and more mature, got engaged and getting married next summer, with the dog. And it's definitely a different phase of life, which I'm for sure ready for. And so it's exciting. I'm really excited for this next phase of life in Ottawa. And, I really felt like it was a good time to make the move to Ottawa too. I mean, it was good for, my relationship, my happiness on the ice, on and off the ice. It was really all positive. This last year, it's been a really good one.
What were some of those things that helped you have, a bigger year and start to feel more comfortable in your role as an NHLer? Because, you and I talk about it. We see it where, opportunity matters. You like to think you can just, outwork all of your adversity and earn everything you get, which, you do. But there's something about, just how tight and how hard it is to have a solid role night in, night out in the NHL that you really do all of those prerequisites, like the preparation, staying crafty about where you can get better in your game, like working hard just to like maximize your readiness for when you do get that opportunity. At least that's how I feel about it. What were some of the things, just in terms of how you were treated and ice time opportunity that kind of helped you take that next step?
Well, I think right away, I got a call, get a call from Pierre and you get a call from DJ and they're talking highly about how they want me to be a big part of the club. And you get a sense of, of belief in yourself all of a sudden. And it carried right into the summer. I mean, right as soon as I started getting on the ice in the summer, I felt better right then and there. And it's as a professional athlete, not 80% of the game is between the ears once you're playing. And it's just how you feel about yourself that night, wanting the puck. And it was just something that I had definitely lost a little bit. I mean, I don't think I was playing bad or hurting the team or anything when I was in Toronto, but I definitely wasn't maximizing my potential. And it's been nice to find that in myself and find that in my game. And I think it's just a big part of it is just the belief in me that was given.
So is there anything you can do? Because I've definitely experienced it in my career where, there are leaders in our lives, GMs, coaches, where you are working for their approval, right? Like you want to make the coach happy. You want to have the coach trust you so they can put you on the ice and things like that. So a little bit of how you feel, probably more than a little bit, but a good chunk of how you feel about yourself as a player can come from the coach. But how do you maintain that inner knowing when there is a little bit of doubt or your play is fluctuating? Like, I guess I want to try to give people an idea of what it feels like when you weren't confident with the puck, let's say. What kind of telltale signs would you experience in a game?
Like I remember, it's just not smooth. I mean, everything just feels disconnected when you're feeling like that. I'm sure you felt like that, but I've been in NHL hockey games where you feel like, you touch the puck first game and you feel like you're like, okay, I'm going to play good today. You get the puck in the first shift and you don't get it out on the wall. And the next 3 shifts, you don't even want the puck almost. And it's just like, it's such a defeating feeling. And you're on the bench and you're telling yourself not to think like that and not to feel that. And it's so hard to control that. And so, I mean, I think a lot of it just comes with maturity. I think, that's why older guys become more consistent players because, they're less emotionally attached to the highs and lows of the game. And I think that just in time, I've kind of developed that of just that sense of maturity and consistency in my game that, I know that I'm not as bad as my mistakes. And, it's an easy thing to say and it's a harder thing to execute. But I think that I've found that this year, I've had bad shifts and I was able to bounce back and I was able to take criticism on the bench and know that, I don't suck and know that, you always laugh around guys on the bench. You always come back. It's like, I suck. How many times you hear that? It's like, we all know that the guy doesn't suck. Right. Yeah. And we also been there. We know that feeling. It's like, I suck right now. Like I can't even and so, I mean, it's just that maturity of knowing that you're not as bad as your mistakes and, you're not as good as your toe drag. So you just got to find that healthy median of what makes you a good player and, what your limits are out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many lessons there, like about knowing your identity, running your own race and just not like engaging in the story. That was something, I'd done as a player where, I'd score a big goal and all of a sudden I think I'm Bobby Orr out there and taking a bunch of crazy risks. And then,
I remember one time
I make him.
No, I got to tell one time we're playing in the minors. This is back when you thought you were Bobby. We're playing in the minors. I'm coming through the middle and you sent me a little sauce pass and it was a gorgeous pass. I got to be honest. And I one-touched it on the net, but I come back to the bench and you go, Brownie, you see that pass? You see how I sauced her in there? I'm like, I saw it, Cease. Like, you didn't have to tell the whole world.
Well, you just, it'd be a shame if you missed it. Yeah. Well, our power play was clicking pretty good, and I just thought our kickouts could have been better a little bit. And I wanted to make sure that, you learn what I thought needed to happen. And one of my favorite things about you is, like, you are an awesome teammate, and like you have so much fun in the locker room. You are competitive. If a guy's not good in practice, you'll try him, you'll test him, you'll let him know, you'll chirp him after practice. Like if a guy's not good in the game, a line mate, whatever, you'll talk about it in a constructive way. But one of the things I've tried to like internalize when you talk to players, that have left the game, like in retirement and stuff, you ask them, hey, what do you wish you did? What do you miss? What do you regret? And almost all of them will tell you, man, I miss the locker room. Like I miss going to war with the guys and screwing around and having a good time. And that's something that I thought, I don't know if you're just like the consummate guys guy, but like we had a blast playing together. And I feel like it's something you value on purpose. I don't think it's something
I just enjoy it. I mean, I just enjoy the locker room banter. It's just, it's just so fun in there. I mean, you get 20 guys that are so similar, and we had a really good locker room banter in Ottawa this year. I think we had the Hall of Famer Tyler Ennis was on our team, so we just saddle up and listen to him talk for an hour straight about movies and God knows what. Like, he just make up stuff.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Me and Enzo, Tyler Ennis, we were the best friends that were never teammates. I think we shared like one training camp. Or like half a training camp, because I was on the group that was the, you want to be in that group, playing those preseason games with Mike Babcock, and that was the group I was in. But Enzo, I wish I got a chance to play with him. That guy was a riot.
Oh man, yeah, he's a clinic.
So I want to talk a little bit about, as a leader now in Ottawa, what are some of the things where you are purposefully trying to grow? Like, I know confidence as a player is going to continue to come with role and ice time and things like that. But when you talk to DJ Smith and you are leaned on as a leader in that room, like what are some like key things or concrete like details that you're trying to bring to that young team?
Well, I think the biggest thing about what has changed over the year is just our practice habits. I remember going to the summer skates when I got traded there, and it just wasn't the same as Toronto, as crisp and as detailed and as professional. And over the year, I try to practice hard, and I goof around as much as any other guy in the locker room. But once we're practicing and it's my turn to do a rep, I try to go as hard as I can. And I think that is really, I think that I think Smitty wanted to bring in guys that are practicing like that. And I think the way we practiced every day throughout the course of the year really got better and better. And it made us like a harder team to play against, because, that's all we knew was to work hard when you're working hard every day. We didn't go out there and lollygag, whether it was a morning skate or was it, any practice. And, when you have an identity as a team like that, to do that in practice, you become a hard team to play against. And so I think that's something where we came a long way in Ottawa. Now it's, time to add some scoring and, get our power play clicking. And, I think that we're right at the doorstep of taking that next step.
You talked about it earlier too with McDavid, and I don't think I ever really asked you when we were playing together, but we played with Austin Matthews. We played with, Mitch Marner. What are some of the skill sets, tools, tricks of the trade that you really have learned from
that I taught them?
I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll ask them that. Lucky I already did the Mitchie podcast. Otherwise, I'd ask him. But what are some things that you learned in your time playing with some of the best of the best, really?
Well, I think you kind of understand that it's not an accident that guys are that good. I mean, at 15 years old, I remember being, I think 18 or 19 in the OHL, and McDavid's working out after practice. At 15, like when I was 15 playing minor midget, like not only was I not like doing planks after practice, I was just doing it for fun, and like I was just enjoying it. And he's just a different level of focus, and he just does everything at such a high speed, and it's not just in the games, it's in practice. And like I said, all those guys, whether it's Austin, whether it's Mitch, JT, these guys, even JVR, and like these top end guys are not good by accident, and it's obvious when you're on their team.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I remember, one of the things I thought was really cool about our Leaf group in general, whether it was Austin, Hyman, I thought was really good at it. Yourself, I felt like we had a very, I don't know if studious is the right word, but we had really, you could tell each season that guys were with each other and they go home in the summer and things like that. Like there was something very specific that guys would work on consistently. Whether it was, you with your cutbacks or your ability to strip guys on the back check. I remember the one year Austin came into training camp and was shooting the puck, and it was like, this guy worked on a shot this summer. It was really impressive. And I felt like for even a young group, we did a really nice job, like focusing on our craft of the game, knowing what was important, honoring our role, being hungry for more. And there was this good tug of war and really like arms race to try and get better that, I know it's something I've tried to steal and talk with even, some of our young players, in New Jersey, because we do have, some really high end young talent, that they ask questions about some of those guys. And it's interesting to see that it really isn't by mistake. I remember really witnessing just how hard those guys would work on their individual skill sets and what made them so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think a guy like Willie Nylander is like, he's probably the most laid back guy I've ever met in my entire life. But have you ever seen a guy on the ice more than him in your life, right? Like, I mean, he's on the ice 25 minutes before practice, stick handling through pucks that he's lined up. And so, I think that's just the common denominator between all those guys. And, I think as more you emulate, hard work and trying to get better and better, obviously they're, like we all are, is, striving to be great.
It's like the power of habit, right? Like you can't just all of a sudden turn it on. You have to be someone that does it the right way all the time. Mike Babcock used to say, like, be an everydayer, and there's a million ways to take that and apply it. But when you do, I remember there was one time, I think we were in Columbus, and Matt's, we were on we were on the road. We had just played a couple games on the road, and we were getting dressed in one of the road locker rooms. We were practicing there that day, and I thought Austin was going to fall asleep before practice. He looked like he was 15 coffees away from being ready to go out and skate. He just kind of was in his stall, a little tired, and he probably played 50 minutes the night before, so that makes sense. But we get on to practice, and like 3 strides in, and he is zinging them off the crossbar, off the back bar. And it was really impressive to man, those best players have a good way of finding it, even when they don't have it.
Even on your worst days, they're not just gonna get through the day, on the ice, and that's something that's important. I mean, every time you're on the ice is truly a chance to get better, and it's such a cliche and a little cheesy, but it just means every time you're on the ice, don't just go through the motions. When you're doing something, might as well have some purpose.
So in terms of your own career, one of the things
what do you got there? What are you drinking?
Little, it's like a hibiscus Jamaica tea I got going. No, it's a vodka cranberry. No, dealing with you, I need it. So one of the things that I'm thinking about, because we are having this conversation on the NHL, with the NHL on pause, one of the things I've really tried to reconnect with is, when I was growing up, much like you, the game was very much, it was fun for me. It was a game. It was, if I were to, juggle a ball and see how many times I could keep it in the air, that's what it was. It wasn't like a sets and reps, hard scheme. Everything wasn't so transactional and I don't want to say goal-oriented, because it was goal-oriented, was to get better, but there was this longer element of play. What role has the curiosity around your skill set? What role has that played in your career?
I think it was a big one. I think this summer was something where, I played a lot of 3-on-3 in small area games this summer, and I feel like that really helped me Just because, just I did a lot of stick skills and shooting, but just that 3-on-3 and finding that competitive edge in the summer is something that I feel like I was missing for a bit. It's different when you get the full ice and you go, you get 4-on-4 full ice and it's just breakaway after breakaway. It's a bit of a waste of time. And I feel like this summer, we had a good group of guys that we trained with in Toronto, and we did some, with Brian Marshall here. He's got a nice little setup, and we had a little rink that we would play 3-on-3 all the time. And I just felt like it really helps with, protecting the puck and edge skills and just, upping the competitive level, in the summer, which was, I felt like something that, if you're being competitive in something, you're getting better without even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's something I try to give advice where, like coaches will ask me what they want to do with younger kids, and I get the skill side and the development and the drills and things like that. Those are all important, but I don't think there's like a better teacher than the game itself. Having a kid learn the ins and outs, the angles of what works, and I thought it was funny. I was talking to Brian Keane, who's he's a consultant that I skate with in the summer, and he was talking about the same thing with some of his like youth kids to like, they would do skill work, and that was great. And these kids would practice, but in order to avoid them becoming just practice players, he wanted to raise the stakes. He wanted to make sure that players could perform when the stakes were a little higher. So he would implement with his 12 and 13-year-olds, where they would play 1-on-1 to 5, and loser would lose their phone for a week. And I thought that was awesome. I was like, yeah, man, we got to bring that to a lot of our adult skates just to ramp it up, because it is such a difference between the summer skates and the regular season training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I grew up getting better, not by I don't when I would, in the summer, my gear would go away, and in the winter, I grew up getting better by going to the shinny rinks, the outdoor shinny rinks here, and playing 3-on-3 and playing 4-on-4, and against my buddies who are all also good hockey players, and just playing keep away. And that's how I grew up of getting better, because I was competitive, not because I was, in all these, I didn't have some sort of personal trainer working on my skills every day, just me and him shooting pucks. I mean, I was just, every time I'd go on the ice, I'd be playing against somebody, and it just brings that competitive spirit out, and then you're just getting better without even thinking about it, and it just makes everything a lot more fun. I mean, who wants to go just skate around a pylon and shoot a puck? And especially as a kid, that's why, I grew up playing with guys that did that, and they were good when they're young, and then they'd stop loving it. And as soon as you stop loving it, it's hard to fake it. It's hard to go out there and enjoy what you're doing and get better naturally.
Yeah, there's something about having a genuine passion for what you're doing. It shows up. You can tell, kind of the players that grow up and end up being practice players or don't enjoy, the puzzle that it is to try and win. So in terms of I talked a lot about it with, Zach Hyman, and just kind of the well-roundedness of an athlete, outside passions. What are some passions that you have, outside the game that you think, build personal momentum and really self-esteem outside of your career? Do you have any?
Well, I mean, I kind of like to play sports. I mean, I love playing cards. I love, on the bird, on the plane, we play poker. I love playing poker. I love playing golf.
What's your handicap? Truly, don't sandbag it.
Well, you know what? It depends who's listening. No, I'm honestly a 6 handicap. Yeah, I'm about a 6 handicap. At least that's what the guys in the semis think.
Yeah, keep it that way. Just keep the story straight, whatever it is.
No, I'm a 6. I play a lot of golf, but I love golf because it's competitive and you can play against guys of all different skill level, and play for some cash, and it just becomes fun. I mean, play a lot of golf in the summer. I love playing cards, and anything that just kind of brings that competitiveness out is something I enjoy.
Is that actually true, or are you just watching The Last Dance? Because that sounds a lot like Michael Jordan. Are you just
me and MJ take?
You guys remind me, same player. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, different bank accounts though.
Yeah, a couple of different zeros on the end of his. God bless him. I'm just waiting to see your shoe line come out in Toronto, the big Brownie brand.
Yeah, Birkenstock.
Brownie, one of the things I've been asking all of our guests is, a question about what in the world right now is something that you'd really want to say to people as the NHL is on pause, or hopefully not by the time we release the podcast. But what is something that really lights you on fire and is a thought that you keep returning to in this time?
Oh, in this time, I think it's just important to not just wait till it's over. I mean, I feel like that's something that a lot of the world is getting caught up in, is just waiting till, when can we do this? When can we do that? I mean, me and Maddie have been enjoying it. I mean, we, whether we're playing games or making dinners, and we're really trying to make the most out of it. And, for us, it's like, how often do you have quality time, this much quality time of, having no distractions, you're not missing out on anything. And so we're trying to enjoy that side of it. And we really have been. And it's been, so I think that just not getting caught up in, when's it over? Things are going to open up slowly and slowly. Obviously, we want things to be over as quick as possible. There's a lot of people losing jobs, and, there's a lot of, negativity around it. But, you can only control what you can control. So, I think as soon as I kind of got that around my head, I became a lot more happier with, with the situation in isolation.
Well, and I think, that's just kind of a part of who you are. You've always had a good pulse of, like, you're not in denial. You understand, what adversity you're going through in your life or in your career, but even going back to the weekend, where we were at Marty and Hyman's wedding, you'd gotten traded, emotional weekend. There's a lot going on. And then we went up, to your cabin right after that. And then we ended up, I remember the one day I was going to work out. I wanted to do some training, and you were like absolutely juiced to jump back in it. And there, like, you always worked hard in everything that you did. You always did in the gym and things like that. I mean, you had to come up third behind like Hymes and I, but like I could just tell that there was an element of, you were competitive about this. You had just gotten moved and you wanted to kind of create your own momentum.
Well, it's not a want to prove you wrong type scenario. I mean, like, whether that is a little bit of it, but if it's you just want to prove to yourself that that you are what you think you are, when your potential is what you believe it could be. And it was, I felt like I really trained hard last summer to find a next step in my game. And, I think a lot of the, my ducks were in a row and I was ready to go once the season started. And, I don't think I scored for the first 15 games or something. I was a little snake bit, but, I was playing well, and it's all about process. I mean, what that's like. I mean, as long as you're getting looks and as long as you're touching the puck, and, I can feel, I felt it right from the first 5 games of the year. I'm like, I have the puck way more than I did last year. And, I'm around it way more, and I just feel way better. And so, I was driven all summer, and I was driven all year. And, I think that I found another level of, of that drive, and I'm just going to keep carrying it on, throughout my career. Now that I've, I feel like I'm, like we talked about, entering another phase in my life.
Was there anything that you learned from playing some of those bigger minutes, and just from your process last year in terms of what worked and what didn't, that you're going to do differently this summer?
I don't know anything in particular at the top of my head. I mean, I want to become, I felt like I did a really, I think I check well on the ice. And so I felt like I created a lot of chances. I don't know what my shooting percentage was, but I definitely wasn't scoring as much as I possibly could be. So I think in and around the net, I'm going to work on my scoring this summer. When things open back up or whatever the case may be. I think that's a step where I can, now that I'm finding my game and I'm creating these opportunities and I'm out around the net more and I'm having the puck more, I think that, I can find that. And I think also a little bit that comes from, 2 years of not having that scoring touch, or a full year. I don't know what I had 8 goals the year before. So, I didn't have that scoring touch and lost it for a bit. And, I felt like as the season went on, I got it more and more, but, that's something for me. I feel like, now I'm confident in my abilities to make plays and to get around the net and to be a difference maker in games. And I think, once I find that scoring touch, I'll find a next level in my game. And, like all of us, we're always trying to find new levels.
That's awesome. And Brownie, I know we talked at length today about, how you do get competitive over really any and everything. You know, me, you, Mitchie, our better halves, we would play a board game of choice. We'd go over to, usually it was your place, and we would play Catan. And you'd always, you had a pretty good footing in the bottom three. Like, how did you manage that day in, day out? Because we had a good run there for a bit. We were playing a lot.
I mean, if anyone knows how to play Catan, like, I was such a marked man in that game where, to the point where no one would trade with me for whatever reason, because maybe because I was a little more talented than the other crew, but I was definitely, I would start behind, and I found a way to win just about every match, and it was nice. It was rewarding.
Well, I think that's just a theme in your life. Like everything from when
Maddie
you were taking
did have a couple
OHL.
wins because she's so nice to everyone. So everyone would be like, "Oh, I need a log," and everyone like, "Oh, here you go." And I'm like, "Hey, can I get a log? I'll give you about 3 things," and no one would cough anything up.
Well, I mean, you got to know.
You know what? The social element of the game. It's the social element.
You got to be able to massage
it.
If you can't, it's managing relationships, man, and
that's
communicating clearly and keeping good faith and.
Yeah, that's something where I kind of put a target on myself, but I still managed to come away with a couple wins, which was pretty remarkable.
That was one of the cool parts, though, about where we were all living when we played, in Toronto, was we were all kind of close to each other and had, like after games, we would be able to go hang out somewhere, have a bite to eat. And that's something that I definitely miss, just because Jersey guys are a little bit more spread out and things like that. I just... It's interesting to me that you talk about your wins, because I thought like after all this time you would have realized how poor you were at the game, but you're probably right. It was probably collusion on all the other players.
It was absolute collusion.
Actually, I mean this. I love my wife to death, but she was way too kind. She was. You could walk all over her in a trade.
Yeah, and she liked to get on the 11s and the 3s too.
Yeah. She was just a big fan of the underdog. That way.
Yeah, I know.
Maddie, you couldn't cross, because if Maddie was hot at you, there was no trading the rest of the game. Like you were totally, it was pass fail with her.
It got to the point where I would not ask Maddie for trades because it was a waste of breath.
I don't have a Catan side deal or sponsorship, but if you guys are listening, you have 2 massive fans in Connor Brown and I. What a game. It's like, I don't know, it was like a bigger, better version of Monopoly that was a great test of your relationship. If it wasn't in a good place pre-game, it was gonna come out. Everything was gonna come out in the wash in that one.
Yeah. What are you talking? Sorry, my headphones just died there. What were you saying? If that was a bit of a test, that game?
Oh, 100%. Like if you went in on the rocks a little bit with your significant other in Catan, it was going to end in a civil war.
You had to realize, like, is it worth going home, being upset? So sometimes, like,
yes.
she wanted the wheat. I'm like, here you go. It's worth it giving you this wheat right now, and then we're gonna go home happy.
Is that
if
you're playing the long game?
If I'm sitting there scamming Maddie, I'm dogging her on every trade, and then we go home and she's upset. Now I'm upset, and it's just not worth it. You gotta weigh the risk reward of it.
I gotta say, one of the players that we played with that I thought. I didn't think. How was Mitchie? I can't remember. I don't remember him being very good.
No, and he's a sensitive guy, so I don't want to tell him that he wasn't good, but he was.
Maybe we'll edit that out. We probably won't. We'll probably leave that in. Sorry, Mitch. Yeah. I actually found Hyman was tough to play with too, because he would like he was a rule book guy.
He would throw the rule book to play with.
It's
not like went from
cheap,
a game
it's
to
gold, it's not go to cheap. He was all upset about the names that we had.
I've never seen anybody suck the fun out of a game like Jaime did there. That was sickening. I go, okay, man. And it felt good to win because he was like, he's a Catan snob is what it was. We would talk in the room. We go, oh, we're playing Catan all the time. And then he comes over. We finally play Catan. And I won that game. And it was the most satisfying win against him and the GOAT.
Lexi literally asked me before I interviewed Jaime, she's like, are you going to bring up the time he was really hot about like how we played Catan? Are you going to bring that up? I'm like, no, this is a friendly affair. I'll probably leave it and talk smack behind his back with a future guest like Brownie or something.
Yeah. There you go.
Poor guy. Anyway, Himes, don't throw the rule book at us, man. Like we had our flow. What else did we play? We played Cards Against Humanity pretty good. That was a fun game. What was the other card game? We used to play
that voting game, eh? And then we just saw. It
was like the most likely to. It'd be like a prompt, like most likely to insert mischievous act here, and then you'd like blind vote. That was a blast. I miss it, man. I miss you. I miss Maddie. I miss Tucky.
Yeah, we miss you guys too. Yeah,
I'm rooting for you, man. I'm hoping we get some clarity around this, and we end up, whether it's playing together again or seeing each other in the summer. Stay well out there, all right, bro?
All right, brother. Love, peace, and hair grease, man.
Amen, brother. Thank you to everyone, wherever you may be in the world today, for joining us. And I hope, you were able to get out of our conversation with Brownie today what I know I did. He truly is somebody that has earned everything in his career. He's done a really nice job building his inner resiliency. He's taken some tough moments in his career, thrown himself a very short pity party, and then usually he's right back after it, progressing towards his goals. One of the things that also came through in our conversation with Brownie is his ability to run his own race. I think comparison can be the thief of joy. I don't know who said it, but whoever did, very bright thought. It's something I've struggled with, I know, in my own career. But Brownie has this, head down, just doing the best with what's in front of him mentality that served him really well over the course of his career as he, really tries to evolve his role and impact as a forward now with the Ottawa Senators. And then finally, when you are in these tough situations, one of the things that I think Brownie really is a testament for is being able to add value to every situation, no matter what. I'm sure there were a lot of days in our time on, some of those strong Leaf teams where we're on playoff runs, where he wanted to be higher up in the lineup and on power plays and score more goals and get more opportunities and things like that. But Brownie did a really nice job playing a 200-foot game. He was always hard to play against, easy to play with, and you could tell whether he was playing well or not, he managed his energy to be as positive as it could be, and really just try to add value to the team every which way he could. So with all that said, if you're still with us, I want to say thank you. Please continue to like and subscribe, comment. It does a lot of good in helping us grow this podcast. I'm super honored you're with us every week, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you.